Hi, everyone. Welcome back to I Love Flagler County, your local podcast spotlighting local residents, local businesses on why they like Flagler County and why they like running their business in Flagler County. So, today I'm super honored to have my guest, Tiffany Rufino, with me today. Tiffany and I know each other from the Professional Women of Flagler County networking group, and I think we've just kind of seen each other around but Tiffany's been in business since 2019, and I'm super honored that she was able to spend a few minutes and come on with me. Thank you today.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm very grateful. I've heard so much about you, Macy, and when we finally got to connect and meet at the chili barbecue weekend, I was like, oh, I can't wait to talk with you.
Oh my gosh, it's literally the same. Like I was just telling Tiffany before we got on, is that every time I had someone on and I was like, hey, who do you know who might also want to join? They're like, you should have Tiffany. You should have Tiffany. So I'm glad it's a little bit mutual. And excuse my lighting. I think it's like back to
Angelic.
all right, there you go. It's like the beautiful Florida sun. It's like an asset, and then sometimes it's not. You just get to navigate this part of living down here. But again, Tiffany, thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
You were telling me before, so you're not originally from Florida. So how did you kind of find Flagler? What brought you down here? I'd love to know.
Sure. So I never heard of Palm Coast or Flagler before. And I'm originally from Long Island, New York. And my thought was I would never move to Florida. It was just a thing in New York that our friends would say because we always heard about people moving down and we were like, no,
Right.
we're not going to move. And our neighbor of 25 years had moved down and my parents went to visit her and they came back and they said, we got a souvenir, we got a house. And I'm like, that's random. And that was in 2006. And I knew if they were going to move down permanently, I had a younger brother and I didn't want to be in New York without my family. We were very tight knit. So I decided to transfer with my New York job at the time and get established before they moved down so that I was already prepared for when they were here and set up my life. And I was also at a transitioning point where it was time for me to go. I had kind of accomplished a lot in New York, but I felt that I needed a change in order to grow myself. And I don't know why I thought Florida would be that spot, but I knew that there was a calling there, and having a support system with my family there was definitely going to be the jumping off point.
Yeah, I think that's really lovely. And there's so many of us from up north that are down here now.
Yeah,
But
I
it's
know it's
nice.
Palm York. It's definitely Palm York.
That's so funny. I've never heard of that, but that's like so true. I feel like I like half of the people who like are not natives that I've had on this podcast are like from New Jersey, New York, Long Island, like all of those like places, or like maybe there's a few from like the Midwest, like I think Illinois is also really popular.
Yes.
I'm like,
Yep.
oh, we're all down here. We're all finding our people down here.
I feel like
Um,
I'm an ambassador sometimes when I meet people, and I'm like, well, you can go here, you could go there, and then don't forget this place. And if you need this, then I become Hurricane Central and I help them calm down during their first hurricane so that
oh,
they,
right.
right? And because they'll come to me and they gravitate like, what should I do? And I'm like, well, I'm not a meteorologist, but here's what I learned.
Yeah, that's exactly how my dad felt when we were moving down here, especially with the hurricanes. He was like, "Do we need these shutters and these and these and these?" And the
Yeah,
builder was like, "No,
just a
you
barbecue. You'll be fine.
don't live that close to the water." He's
Right,
like, "Inland doesn't get that much. Like if you live on Flagler Beach, yeah, but you don't, so you're fine." And like the
right.
first like hurricane, my dad like freaked out and like went to Georgia, and then it like passed within like 2 days, and he was like, "Well, now you know." Now you
Right.
know, you
Now we
live and
just
you
say,
learn. Yeah, like, there were, I think,
yep.
like, 2 this summer, but, like, I didn't we didn't feel anything.
Yeah,
I think it's
knock
just
on wood.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
So you've had your business since 2019. You had kinda told me a little bit on your transition, but I'd love to know, how what inspired you to start your own businesses, and how have you liked running it in Flagler?
Sure. So it's a little bit of a long story, so I'll try to narrow it down. It started as a podcast. It was called the Great to Greater podcast with Tiffany Rufino. And originally it started as the Other Side podcast and name changes and rebranding and that sort of thing. But Great to Greater was the theme. And the intention is how do you take people that are managers and turn them into leaders, and how
Mm,
to take somebody who's already great and help them become greater at what they do. And the podcast became, at first it wasn't great. We were great at what our intentions were, but we had to learn formatting and really had to get a message out there. It was my husband and I, and we were kind of all over the place with structuring it and everything else. It was a learning curve. And then it grew, and COVID really, it started to take off. And during COVID, I was working in the corporate field. I've been working corporate for years. And the company I was with for almost 10 years went bankrupt, and they cut all their stores in half. And I was offered an opportunity to stay or to leave. And I decided that I wanted to take Great to Greater and turn it into something of a consulting business, more so into business therapy, because I was getting my master's in industrial organizational psychology, which is different than business consulting, and it's different than life coaching. It's kind of in between, but working on the people side of things. And so in 2020, when the company, made the changes and I separated from them, it was hard for me to find my identity as myself without being associated with an organization. I've been working since I was 14. So how
Mm,
do I branch out on my own and not have like anything that can mold me into what I want to be? How do I do that? And I found that through my podcast, I was still leading my teams through like subliminal messaging in all my podcasts. How do you get through COVID? How do you help your teams and your employees get through COVID? How do you have the right mindset? And I got really burned out, because there's not that there wasn't a return on that, but I just wasn't part of that world anymore. And I had to really redefine who I was. And so through some soul searching and through talks with my husband, and really deciding what path we wanted to go on, because goal setting is really important, and having a partner that supports you and kind of can take the partner hat off and put the manager hat on and sit there and say, okay, what about this? What about this? What about this? And get you organized. Uh, he shared with me, you need to brand yourself as yourself and go out there and speak your message. And so nowadays we're at the Tiffany Rufino agency, because I've gotten a lot of certifications in public relations. I have a certificate from I think it was Yale that I got for psychology, and still finishing my master's. I have my bachelor's in leadership and organizational stuff. So, I mean, there's so many things that I'm versatile in that I don't fit into a box. But what I wanted to do is, when I speak with people, they're so concerned about competition and other businesses. And I sat there and I thought, if you're minding somebody else's business, who's minding yours? And I said,
mm,
that should be me. And I said, I'll
right.
mind your business. So that's our tagline, is the Tiffany Rufino agency, minding your business. So I go in and I talk with somebody who has their own business and hear what their problem points are, what their pain points are. And we talk about the people side of things. How do we get the team motivated, inspired, rallied again? And then how do we apply that to the different points of their business? And then aside from that, I don't know if you want me to jump into this yet.
Yeah, go
Uh,
ahead.
that branched into networking and meeting different people and giving different courses and different classes on what they can do to make their business better. I teamed up with Renee DiVincenzo and also Didi Vasquez, and we were giving classes at different periods during the year. And then I started getting requests for public speaking. Could I help people with public speaking, giving tips, because Toastmasters had left this area?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay, let me backtrack. I don't want to say never, because it was in my bucket list to do that eventually, but I didn't think it would happen this soon. And I was like, one track minded, right? Like, no, I really want to focus on the agency part of it. I'm going strong here, but the universe kept putting it in my face. And I said, okay, there's a message here, and people are asking me. And I really thought that it was important at that time, based on who was asking me, that it
Mm-hmm.
was women that I help. And I created Women's Voices. And the goal was to help women find their voice. So whether they're in a board meeting, whether they're in a one-on-one, whether they're in an interview, or whether they're on stage talking in front of hundreds of people, that they feel confident, they own this stage, they could share their story without fear, and they're able to help the audience walk away with something that can change their lives. And the purpose is that they're going to go through it like freshmen, then sophomore, then juniors and seniors. So they have 4 semesters. And by the time they're seniors, they'll have an opportunity to get trained to then start teaching their own classes. So we could branch out and help more women find their voice and share their stories and help other women find their voice.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I mean, public speaking has been a love of mine for kind of a long time because I really enjoy, the performing aspect of it. I think when people think about public speaking, they think about getting on a stage and just kind of talking for a really long time,
Yeah.
which can happen, which some people like doing, but I absolutely love like the theatrical part of it. I was really into theater as a kid.
Yes, 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 yes. I'm a
Um,
theater kid too, so I totally get
Right. Yeah, like the like expressions and like the physical aspect, and there's just so much that you can add to it. So it's so amazing that you're able to help other people kind of reshape their view on public speaking and on themselves and on their own stories. Because so often people go, public speaking, I have nothing to talk about. But then you just kind of dig just very lightly, and you'll find there's just so much in there for people to talk about. So I'm really grateful and I'm glad that you're helping so many women to find that for themselves.
me too. And it was one of those things where I talked about it, and up until the day of the first class, I really didn't have that many people signed up. And so I thought, oh, it's not going to happen. Okay, that's okay. I can move on to what I was going to do. And then the day of, everybody signed up, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is happening. This is going to be it. And the women that were in there knew of each other, but they didn't know each other. And
Right.
so I told them this is not a formal class. This is not like Toastmasters, because I have attended Toastmasters and I respect what they do and the formality that they bring. And I think there's a lot of standards that they instill in people so that
Hmm.
it's professional. I wanted this to be less formal and a little bit of a TED Talk style, but
Hmm.
also for people who are going to be on stage sharing something vulnerable. The last thing I wanted them to be concerned with was the technicalities of it. I
Sure.
wanted them to be more about the message.
Right.
And so I said, this is going to be a little more of the Karate Kid. You're going to learn like to wax on, wax off, and not understand why until like we get to the end of it. So, we're going on this journey together. And the beauty of it is that we created a safe place, and there was a lot of healing that happened in this class. And I asked them to pick a part of their lives that they were going to share their story on, and they could pick any part. It was just a part where everything was great, something happened where it wasn't so great, and then how you got back to greater, like even better than you were before. And every single person picked like the worst part of their lives. And I was kind of stunned, but also the beauty of it is that they felt like they were safe enough and they trusted me enough, and they trusted themselves enough to be able to share that story, because they knew that somebody in the audience is going to walk away with something that's going to empower them to be able to change their lives, or feel stronger after they hear this story, or feel like they can do something to change their lives and get better or get greater or get help. And that's the power of that. And these women have bonded and have helped each other and have grown outside of the group. And I think there's a magic when that happens, when women get together and support each other. So I couldn't have asked for a better group to start with and to go on this journey with. And it's just really exciting to see from a facilitator standpoint.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. That's amazing. And I mean, I completely echo. There's just different learning styles that fit different people. Like, for example, I love Toastmasters. I've been a part of it for like only a few months, but it's helped me. My dad used to do Toastmasters like 20 years ago, so it helped him a
Wow.
lot back then too. And some people need to learn the technical side, and some people just need to learn unlocking their passion. Because I think it's easier to listen to someone who has 15,000 ums but they have the passion for their topic than someone who's perfected to a T, but you can tell they don't really want to talk about that. And that's not anyone's fault. They just hadn't maybe found that right story for them yet. So I think that makes perfect sense. Um, Before we wrap up, I want to ask one last question because I know you're kind of an expert networker and you're really great at demanding kind of your presence. Like I said, so many people recommended you to come on to me, and I'm sure you saw like a few things here and there on social media about me, which is super sweet of you to say. Um, how would you recommend people getting kind of integrated into either their local community or just here local in the Flagler community?
That's a great question because I think after COVID and after the shutdown, I became very sheltered and kind of an
Hmm.
introvert,
Yeah.
if you can believe it. I got very comfortable with being at home and just kind of being a social media warrior. And, I've
Mhm.
been on social media for so long because I'm in the generation where I watched it happen because I am
Right.
that old. So, going out again, I was just like, I don't really need to. I'm just happy where I'm at. And if I can communicate this way, why not? But I am such a communicator and I believe in different forms of communication. I was on a radio show back in the day. I used to be a music director for a radio station. So, like communicating that way, communicating in person, communicating on stage. And I just felt like I was missing a part if I wasn't connected to people. And with starting the business, you have to get out there. So I did a my own event in January of this year. It was a Great to Greater event. I felt that after COVID and with the new year starting, that people needed help getting back out there, and I wanted businesses to thrive in Flagler. So I created my own networking event, and I said all attendance is free. I had vendors set up and asked them for $20, really just to help cover the cost of the place, and they were all vendors that were either new to Flagler or brand new and starting up, or businesses that could help brand new businesses
Mhm.
start out there. So, B2B networking. And I created like my own TED Talk style. And I asked people to submit applications so that they could talk at this event about how they went from great to greater, people that I didn't know, and maybe a couple of people that I did know, so that they can inspire others in doing that and for business. So in doing that and kind of just saying, there's not something out there that I want, so I'm going to do it myself. I networked through the audience members that were there, and they said, hey, you should come and talk to this group. You should come and meet these people. And I said, yes, instead of saying no. I said, you know what, let's try it. Because if you're here, you're my kind of people. So let me see who you're hanging out with. And I joined a networking group called the Boss Lady. That was the first thing. It was it is a really great networking group where it's more about you and your personal goals and where you want to be. And they really care about the accountability piece, but how are you doing? It's
Right.
not just like, here's your business card and call me for business. It's more of like, what's going on in your life? How can we help? That sort of thing. And then from there, it started, going into events and going into the professional women's club and networking there. And usually, as you start branching out into the groups, you start to see the same people. You like you network with them, and then you're building friendships, and then everybody, you see people and you're like, oh yeah, this person can help you and this person can help you, because you know everybody, and you once you have that relationship, you trust that person enough to be able to refer them. And
Mhm.
I do that as often as possible. Like, this person can help you here, this person can help you here, like this person is who you go to for all your facial needs, like, and it's just out of love and out of pure trust, because if I haven't gone to them, then I'm not going to refer them, but I try to go to everybody for the service so that I can.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I think just showing up in the local community, even at the smaller events, doesn't matter if they're big, if they're small, and then once you show up to enough of them, like you said, you just kind of start running into the same people, and then that connection with those people just grow. And that's definitely what I found too, is it didn't happen overnight. It was something I kind of had to like push myself into, like, all right, go to this one and then go to this one and actually talk to the people there, get introduced to the people there, and being open to that. I think people can definitely sense when you're at a networking event and when you're open to meeting new people and you're open to opportunities.
Well, I think you hit it on the head when you said, like, you go to their events, and the people that I've come in contact with, they have their own personal events, their own personal celebrations with their jobs or their careers, and just showing up and being there to support. And it has nothing to do with networking. It's just hey, I know you've been working on this and I'm proud of you and I want to be there to celebrate you. Or showing up when something is not so celebratory. Maybe, something terrible has happened, and showing up and being there and saying, hey, it's not just because we're part of the same group, it's because I'm here for you. And that has built a whole different kind of network, and I think that's important in business because a lot of people like to say there's not emotion in business, and that's absolutely not true.
Right,
Um, as a business owner, you have to have passion, and that's emotion right there. But the people next to you are just as passionate, and I think it's important to be supportive in all aspects. If you got to be all in with it. So
right. Yeah,
that's what
well, I think
I said.
that's a really amazing note to kind of end on. So, Tiffany, thank you so much for coming on and sharing a few minutes with me. I really
Sure.
appreciate it. Really quick, if anyone would like to learn any information on you or Women's Voices or anything like that, what is the best way for them to find you or contact you?
Absolutely. Thank you. They can go to TiffanyRufino.com. So it's TiffanyRufino.com. Everything is on there for Women's Voices and for the agency. And then coming up soon is the digital magazine. So stay tuned.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure I have all of those links in the description so people can find it just a little bit easier. So, again, Tiffany, thank you so much for your time. And thank you to everyone. I'll see you next time.
Sounds good. Thank you.